They say some moments don't simply happen, they leave permanent marks on you. They settle deep beneath your skin and remain there, moving with every heartbeat. It's been 2 years now, 2 birthdays, 2 painfully long years since everything changed, since I discovered that not every surprise arrives wrapped in ribbons and smiles. Some come wrapped in silence, guilt, and a loneliness that clings to your spirit like damp clothing. I can still remember waking up that morning. Sunlight filtered through the curtains. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee drifted through the house. Downstairs, a soft melody played in the background. For a brief moment, I convinced myself it would be a wonderful day, a meaningful day. Maybe even one of those rare days when love felt uncomplicated again. I was wrong. I should have noticed it in the way Daniel kissed me that morning, quickly, distractedly, as though his thoughts were somewhere else. I should have noticed how often he glanced at his phone, smiling at messages he never let me read. But I ignored it. I wanted to ignore it. When you felt lonely for long enough, you begin creating excuses for things that should break your heart. I told myself he was organizing something thoughtful, something special, just for me. After all, it was my birthday. When he told me to stay home and relax, when he said, "Tonight is going to be unforgettable, sweetheart," I smiled and believed him. Sometimes hope is the cruelest thing we hold on to. I spent the day drifting between excitement and nervous anticipation. I cleaned the house, chose a dress, and sprayed on the perfume he used to compliment, the one he hadn't mentioned in months. I lit candles. I played songs that used to mean something to us. I even rehearsed how I would thank him when he finally showed me that he still cared. I wanted so badly to believe I mattered. When the doorbell rang that evening and laughter echoed from the other side of the door, I still didn't understand what was happening. I thought perhaps people had come to celebrate with me. Maybe Daniel had organized a surprise gathering. Maybe I hadn't been forgotten after all. What I didn't know was that sometimes the people you love most are the same people who hand you heartbreak while smiling. I had no idea what kind of surprise awaited me. No idea that the events of that night would divide my life into 2 parts. Before and after. If you want to understand why that night shattered me, you need to know a little about the life I was living beforehand. I was 32 years old when it happened, living with my husband in Charlotte, North Carolina. Daniel and I had been married for nearly 9 years. In the beginning, he made me feel like the center of his world. There were flowers for no reason, spontaneous weekend trips, and endless conversations that lasted until sunrise. I truly believed in us. I believed that kind of love couldn't disappear. Yet somewhere along the way, something changed. Maybe the love faded. Maybe it simply got buried beneath work, bills, obligations, and years of routine. Maybe we both changed. All I know is that somewhere between our 5th and 7th year together, I stopped being the woman he pursued and became the woman he merely tolerated. He stopped looking at me the way he once had. He stopped truly listening, even when he pretended to. Meaningful conversations were replaced with nods and half-hearted smiles. Date nights became promises of maybe next weekend. Eventually, he surrounded himself with other people. There was Ryan, Noah, and Tyler, his closest friends. He called them brothers. They were loud, charismatic, and always ready with a joke or a drink. The kind of men who filled every room they entered. At first, I didn't mind them. They seemed to make Daniel happy, and I wanted that for him, even if I was no longer the reason behind his happiness. But over time, I began noticing things. Their conversations often excluded me, even when I sat right beside them. Daniel seemed more alive around them than he ever did around me. Plans between us were canceled whenever one of them called. Guys' night always seemed more important than our night. I kept telling myself it was normal, that everyone needed space, that if I gave him enough freedom, eventually he would miss me. Deep down, though, I knew better. From the outside, our house looked perfect. A neat suburban home on a quiet street, freshly painted and decorated for my birthday. But inside, it felt cold. Not the kind of cold you feel on your skin, the kind that settles into your bones. I tried to bring warmth back into it. Candles, music, home-cooked meals he rarely touched. Effort after effort. But you can't keep setting yourself on fire to keep someone else warm forever. Eventually, you burn out. That night, standing inside that house surrounded by decorations that suddenly felt meaningless, I realized how empty everything had become. The morning itself had started strangely. Daniel was unusually attentive. He lingered in the kitchen while I made coffee. He smiled at me in ways he hadn't in years. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, kissed my neck, and whispered, "Stay home today. Let me handle everything. Tonight is going to be special." I wanted to believe him. More than that, I needed to believe him. So I pushed my doubts aside one more time. The afternoon passed slowly. I checked the clock constantly. I touched up my makeup more than once. I kept looking at my phone, wondering if he was thinking about me the way I was thinking about him. When the doorbell finally rang, my heart jumped. I imagined flowers, a romantic surprise, some grand gesture. Instead, standing at the door were Ryan, Noah, and Tyler. They carried bottles, balloons, and oversized smiles. They walked inside as though they owned the place, loudly wishing me a happy birthday. Their energy felt overwhelming, almost forced. Still, I smiled. Maybe they were helping Daniel with whatever surprise he had planned. Yet something about their expressions unsettled me. Their smiles lingered a little too long. Their eyes seemed to study me more carefully than before. Even their hugs felt slightly too familiar. A heaviness settled in my chest. Daniel arrived a few moments later, carrying a blindfold. "What is that for?" I asked, with a nervous laugh. He grinned. "Come on, sweetheart. Trust me, it's your birthday. Let us spoil you a little." Every instinct warned me that something wasn't right. But then he kissed my forehead, and for a brief moment, I saw the man I used to know. So I let him tie the blindfold around my eyes. I let myself believe. The room disappeared into darkness. Laughter echoed around me. Glasses clinked. Hands guided me through the living room. My heart pounded louder than the noise surrounding me. And beneath it all was a sinking feeling. A feeling that whatever awaited me was not what I thought it was. Daniel leaned close and whispered, "Relax. You're going to love this." I wanted desperately to believe him. Someone placed a drink into my hand. The conversations around me grew louder. The atmosphere felt increasingly strange. Then I heard a voice near my ear, speaking words I couldn't quite make out. I froze. Before I could react, Daniel untied the blindfold. The world came back into focus. And the moment the fabric slipped away, I realized this wasn't the celebration I had imagined. The furniture had been moved aside. Candles flickered throughout the room, casting everything in a golden glow. Daniel's friends stood nearby with drinks in hand and expressions that no longer felt welcoming. There was no birthday cake, no wrapped gifts, no hidden guests waiting to surprise me. Only the four of them and me. The air felt heavy. For several long moments I stood there, trying to convince myself everything was harmless, trying to laugh away the unease growing inside me. but their expressions told a different story. Their smiles were too wide. Their presence felt too close. I gripped my drink tightly as my pulse raced. I should have walked away. I should have asked questions. Instead, I remained where I was, caught between discomfort and a desperate desire to feel noticed again after years of feeling invisible. That contradiction terrified me, yet it kept me standing there. And somewhere deep inside, pieces of me were already beginning to break. The casual touches became more frequent. Conversations grew increasingly uncomfortable. Daniel seemed to encourage the atmosphere, brushing aside every hesitation with a reassuring smile. "Relax," he would say. "Just enjoy yourself." But it didn't feel enjoyable. It felt as though pieces of me were slowly being stripped away beneath the disguise of a celebration. At one point, one of his friends suggested I lap dance Ryan. I hesitated. I shook my head, laughing, saying something about being too old for that kind of thing. Everyone laughed and encouraged me to join. Daniel just laughed along with them. "Come on," he said, nudging me forward. "Don't be a party pooper. It's just a game." The room seemed to blur around me. Whether it was the noise, the drinks, or the growing sense of unease, I couldn't tell. I sat down. Ryan's hand settled on my hips, studying me, lingering. The night blurred after that between laughter and something else, something darker that clung to my skin. It smelled like tequila and candle wax, and the slow, sickening realization that some things, once you cross them, you can never go back. And I had feelings I was about to cross something I couldn't undo. As the evening continued, I found myself trapped between discomfort and the desperate desire to belong. Music played softly in the background while conversations drifted around me. More drinks appeared. More laughter followed. The atmosphere changed gradually, almost invisibly, until it no longer felt like a birthday gathering at all. I kept looking to Daniel for reassurance, for a sign, for an explanation. Instead, he simply watched. That was when something inside me began to crack. Not because of any single moment, but because I realized I was standing alone in a room full of people. The celebration had never truly been about me. It wasn't about making me feel loved or appreciated. It was about something else entirely, and the person I trusted most seemed perfectly comfortable with it. The following morning arrived like a punishment. Sunlight poured through the curtains far too brightly. I woke up exhausted, emotionally drained, and uncertain how to make sense of what had happened. Daniel was already downstairs drinking coffee, as if nothing unusual had occurred. He greeted me with a smile, asked whether I wanted breakfast, talked about the weather. The normality of it all felt almost unbearable. My phone buzzed repeatedly with messages from his friends, casual comments, jokes, references to the night before. I stared at the screen and felt sick. Part of me wanted to throw the phone away. Part of me wanted answers. Instead, I remained silent. Over the days that followed, I couldn't stop replaying everything in my mind. Had I ignored warning signs? Had I abandoned my own boundaries? Or had I been pushed into a situation I never fully understood? The questions circled endlessly. Loneliness has a strange way of changing a person. It can make attention feel valuable even when it comes from the wrong place. It can make recognition feel like affection. It can convince you to accept things you would normally reject. Looking back, I saw all the small moments that led me there. The missed conversations, the forgotten birthdays, the distance growing between us year after year. Somewhere along the way, I stopped believing I deserved more. That realization hurt almost as much as the betrayal itself. I carried guilt with me afterward. Guilt for staying silent. Guilt for ignoring my instincts. Guilt for allowing myself to feel grateful for attention that should never have mattered in the first place. Most of all, I struggled with the fact that I no longer recognized either of us. The man I loved seemed like a stranger, and when I looked in the mirror, I wasn't entirely sure who I was anymore. Even now, I still ask the same questions. Was I betrayed? Was I responsible? Was I simply lonely? Or was I someone desperately searching for a reminder that she still mattered? I don't know if I'll ever have answers. Some experiences don't end with neat conclusions. Some remain inside you, like a splinter beneath the skin, reminding you of their presence whenever you move. What I do know is this: the desire to be seen can be powerful. The desire to feel valued can cloud judgment. And sometimes the deepest wounds come not from enemies, but from the people we trusted to protect us. On that birthday, I thought I was celebrating another year of life. Instead, I found myself grieving the version of me that believed love alone could hold everything together. Some memories don't fade. Some stay with you forever. The following morning arrived like a punishment. Sunlight poured through the curtains far too brightly. I woke up exhausted, emotionally drained, and uncertain how to make sense of what had happened. Daniel was already downstairs drinking coffee, as if nothing unusual had occurred. He greeted me with a smile, asked whether I wanted breakfast, talked about the weather. The normality of it all felt almost unbearable. I stood in the doorway for a moment, staring at him. How could he act like everything was fine? How could he sit there sipping coffee while I felt like my entire world had shifted overnight? I lowered myself into a chair, my body heavy with exhaustion. My phone buzzed repeatedly with messages from his friends, casual comments, jokes, references to the night before. Messages that seemed harmless on the surface, but made my stomach turn. I stared at the screen and felt sick. Part of me wanted to throw the phone away. Part of me wanted answers. Instead, I remained silent. Daniel continued talking about sports, talking about plans for the weekend, talking about absolutely everything except the one thing I desperately needed him to talk about. The silence between us felt louder than any argument ever could. Over the days that followed, I couldn't stop replaying everything in my mind. Every conversation, every glance, every moment I had ignored because I wanted so badly to believe things were okay. Had I missed the warning signs? Had I ignored what was right in front of me? Or had I simply been trying to hold together a marriage that had already fallen apart? The questions never stopped. They followed me through the house, through sleepless nights, through quiet mornings, through long afternoons spent staring out windows while pretending everything was normal. Nothing felt normal anymore. The house looked the same. The furniture hadn't moved. The photographs still hung on the walls. But something had changed. Maybe it was the house. Maybe it was me. I kept thinking about the years leading up to that birthday. The missed conversations. The forgotten promises. The nights spent feeling alone beside someone who was supposed to love me. The slow distance that had grown between us without either of us acknowledging it. Or maybe only one of us refused to acknowledge it. Somewhere along the way, I stopped expecting more. Stopped asking for attention. Stopped believing I deserved it. I convinced myself that loneliness was simply part of marriage. That disappointment was normal. That feeling invisible was something people eventually learned to live with. Looking back, I realize how dangerous those beliefs were. Because when you've been unseen for long enough, even the smallest amount of attention can feel meaningful. Even when it shouldn't. Especially when it shouldn't. That's what haunted me most. Not the party, not the jokes, not the awkward memories. What haunted me was realizing how desperately I had wanted to matter to someone, anyone. I carried guilt afterward. Guilt for staying silent. Guilt for doubting myself. Guilt for ignoring the voice inside me that had been warning me all night. And yet beneath the guilt was something else. Grief. Grief for the woman I used to be. The woman who believed love would always be enough. The woman who trusted without hesitation. The woman who thought promises lasted forever. I don't know exactly when I lost her. Maybe it happened gradually. Maybe it happened all at once. But after that birthday, I knew she was gone. Even now, I still ask myself the same questions. Was I betrayed? Was I responsible? Was I simply lonely? Or was I someone desperately searching for proof that she still mattered? I don't know if I'll ever have answers. Some experiences don't end with neat conclusions. Some don't come with lessons wrapped in pretty words. Some simply leave scars. Scars that fade with time but never completely disappear. What I do know is this. The desire to be seen can be powerful. The desire to feel valued can cloud judgment. And sometimes the deepest wounds don't come from strangers. They come from the people we trusted most, the people we believed would protect us, the people we never imagined we'd have to protect ourselves from. On that birthday, I thought I was celebrating another year of life. I thought I was making memories. I thought I was holding on to a marriage that could still be saved. Instead, I found myself mourning the version of me that believed love alone could keep two people together. Because sometimes the end of a relationship doesn't arrive with slammed doors or dramatic goodbyes. Sometimes it arrives quietly, disguised as an ordinary evening, disguised as laughter, disguised as a celebration. And by the time you recognize it, everything has already changed. Some memories fade, some lessons soften, but some nights stay with you forever. And that birthday will always be one of them. Have you ever ignored a warning sign because you wanted to believe everything was okay? Have you ever stayed in a situation longer than you should have because you were afraid of what letting go would mean? Let me know in the comments. And if stories like this make you reflect, question, and see life from a different perspective, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Here, at Infidelity Confession, we don't just tell stories. We explore the choices, emotions, and moments that shape who we become. Until next time, take care of your heart. Sometimes it's carrying more than anyone else can see.